give me the green light recording because I'm going to talk before we do that, right? Or did you already hit it?
No, I haven't hit it yet.
Okay, yeah. So just kind of give me like a silent. When I see that, I'll start talking.
After I start.
After you start recording, yeah. Because
Spreaker, not Mixler.
No, go ahead and do Spreaker. Always do Spreaker. Mixler first. Yeah.
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 But
So
do you want the nod after the Mixler or after the Spreaker?
Just on your own, roll the Mixler. You can do that right now. Okay. And then when you get ready to hit the record button, before you hit the intro, give me kind of the nod to go, and I'll start talking about the what we're going to be talking about here today, and then I'll just, as I say, stay tuned, then you'll hit the jingle. That make sense?
Yep.
So you got Mixler rolling?
Yeah, Mixer's rolling.
Okay.
The valet.
Yeah. All right, Rich Casanova here. We are set for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show with our $1 billion Buckhead view from our Pro Business Channel studios here in Atlanta. This episode, we're going to be talking all things insurance, which is always a hot topic, always in terms of local, global, but from the individual perspective. We have a good friend joining us, a longtime member of the Buckhead Business Association. So stay tuned. In just a minute, we'll be right back.
It's time once again for another episode of the Buckhead Business Show. Being brought to you by the Buckhead Business Association. Broadcasting live from the Pro Business Channel studios in Atlanta. And now, here's your host for today's episode.
All right, Rich Casanova here. We are set for this episode of the Buckhead Business Show. And joining us in the studio, as I mentioned, a longtime member of the Buckhead Business Association, Buzz with one Z and McAmber with one C.
Correct. That is the Scottish spelling, not the Irish spelling that 90% of people do with it.
They either put two Z's in your name or two C's, right? Yeah.
I grew up with it with two Z's, and my wife said she didn't want to marry a sound effect, so
That's a good one.
I ended up with one. That was 46 years ago, though.
And it's Casanova with one S. But besides all that, yes, let's jump into some real topic here. So as I mentioned, we're going to be talking all things insurance, which really permeates from a government perspective, from, society, and obviously from the individual, the corporate perspective. I mean, what are your insurance options? And before we get into that, so a little bit of background about Buzz. So this is a family business in the insurance since 1893. Your grandfather, Fred T. McAmber, started this whole, right?
He did, and he and my dad, who took over the business after World War II, grew it into one of the largest independent agencies in Michigan.
Michigan, yeah.
So it was, and my dad retired from that business, and I'm actually kind of the second iteration.
Okay.
I think they're looking down on me saying, well, we finally got him, and he finally saw the light. So,
right.
It's an opportunity to help a lot a lot.
And I was born in Miami, but you went to Miami University in Ohio.
In Ohio, I did.
Well, first time I heard that, I'm thinking somebody got off the rails there and got lost. But meanwhile, you also served a naval officer shipboard out of Norfolk, Virginia.
I did, and we actually took a tour on Guam after that, which was great fun. Temperature never went below 70 and never above 90 in the 2 years we were there.
It's funny because we've known each other for a long time. I didn't realize some of this backstory that we have in common. I spent some years up in Virginia Beach and worked at Norfolk there, so we may have crossed paths. But then also fast forward, so you did a number of different career positions, including a sales leader, managing relationships with Gartner. Largest clients were GM, Sara Lee, Ford, Chrysler, Coca-Cola.
My background is generally working with large companies. I actually started my career with IBM and working with large corporations, and I got to see firsthand the issues that a lot of their people faced in trying to care for their families, and it's a real challenge, particularly today.
And speaking of family, so two other points I thought was interesting from your bio here is you're also involved in working on Habitat for Humanity, building homes, and mission works in Tanzania.
It was through our church. It was a little bit serendipitous, but we had a magical experience over there. I've actually been to Africa 4 times, and
Wow.
I would go back tomorrow. It was a wonderful opportunity to work with people that are the most friendly, open, and hospitable that you could ever hope to meet.
We may have you back or make some introductions for our upcoming episode of Nonprofit Radio, but talking about Habitat for Humanity.
It's and I have a very good friend of mine who's one of the leaders down there, and I would absolutely bring him along with me because he can speak much more eloquently. I've been mostly a Sherpa for it.
Sherpa, nice. All right, and then finally, before we jump into our subject matter here, you're talking about family. So you and your wife Kimberly married for 46 years. Wow,
Yes, indeed.
that's impressive. Is that all in a row, or
It is, actually. Yeah, we've survived all this time.
Kelly and Nick over here like, are seriously? Did you just say that? Yeah.
Well, I know Rich well enough. You can say that.
Yeah. So you're the parents of 3 wonderful children. Now enjoy 6 grandchildren.
Yes,
Dang.
indeed. And the good news is none of them are here. The bad news is none of them are here.
Right, yeah.
So we get an opportunity to travel. We're
what parts of the country are
we're
they?
actually getting ready to do our Thanksgiving East Coast swing. We
Okay.
have our daughter is a principal investigator at the National Cancer Institute, and she and her husband, who work for NASA, live in Bethesda.
Oh, wow.
And our daughter, who actually now works for Gartner, she worked there longer than I have. This is her 20th year,
Dang.
and she's up in Fairfield, Connecticut. So, and we have a son in Chicago with 2 kids. So we
Yeah.
have 2 in each place.
Wow. It's interesting. So from the insurance perspective, the family business, the legacy continues. But now even on the corporate level, father to daughter, the legacy
Who knew?
continues, right? Yeah.
Who knew? And actually, my
That's-
older brother, both of my older brothers, we all were at IBM at the same time for a little while, and we all were at Gartner at the same time for a little while.
I think there's a book in the works here. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, but let's jump now into so we mentioned the insurance industry just has tentacles in so many places, and it can be complicated for a lot of people, right? But we're focusing today on 2 underserved areas of the insurance marketplace. One is health coverage for the small, medium-sized business, which is close to our heart, our middle name being
course.
business. So talk to us about that sector of the insurance industry.
It has been a struggle because insurance costs have, as we all know, I mean, there's no new news here other than maybe some data points that, individual plans have gone up over 50% in the last 3 years in terms of premiums. For families, it's worse. It's over 60%. And recently, there's been a lot of talk about, premiums aren't going up. It's 2 or 3%, and everybody should be celebrating. But what that ignores is between 17 and 18, for the marketplace, the most used plan, which is the silver plan, went up 64%,
Wow.
49% in 1 year. So insurance is expensive, and people are struggling to figure out how to cover even the basics, and that's what I've elected to focus on is really the basic routine day-to-day coverage because that's what we need most.
Yeah, because as I mentioned, it can be complicated for the individuals, for the companies. What do they need? What is the best opportunities there?
Sure.
A lot of people see it maybe as just a commodity that there's not, there's only one option, right?
Well,
But
there are, and that
it's
part
not.
of the problem with the industry is there are too many options.
Okay.
And so what I've elected to do, and it's a little bit unusual for the marketplace, I've elected to really narrow my focus to 2 areas. One you mentioned is the limited medical plans for individuals and companies, and then the second is the long-term care marketplace, and it's really not strictly long-term care because that market is broken. So I've
Well, why do you say that?
well, long-term care started out, and in the early 2000s, they were selling 750,000 policies a year, and people were thinking this is, the answer to my problem. But what has actually happened is people are living longer than they were expecting to. Medical costs have gone up a lot higher than they were expecting to have happen, and the industry drove, and the policies actually drove people in to using long-term care facilities, and they're very expensive. So what's happened is the industry has gone from over 100 carriers down to about 12,
Wow.
and they're all losing money. So it's a use it or lose it. The traditional long-term care market is a use it or lose it proposition. What I mean by that is if you sign up for a policy and you happen to unfortunately die before you need the benefits from the policy, you've lost all that money.
Right.
The hybrid life long-term care brings the two together, which to me is a very economically efficient way to protect your investment in your own health and in your coverage.
Well, I got a couple of follow-up questions that I should have mentioned as well, that Nick, our engineer, is here in the studio. He may have a question here a little bit later in the show. But back up for a second about this long-term care. I mean, it's somewhat self-explanatory, but for the people that have heard the term, may not know about, what are the misnomers to that, or how would
Well,
you kind of define that, right?
Long-term care is, first of all, you have to be certified by the medical community, and it's a standard process.
But I mean, what is the insurance coverage? I
Well,
mean,
the
is-
insurance coverage is generally a fixed dollar amount for a certain period of time. And it goes, or it can be coverage up to a certain dollar amount for use at long-term care facility where you'll get housing and meals and medical care. And if you are in a memory-assisted facility, if you have Alzheimer's or dementia of one kind or another, there's
And many
coverage
times
for
we
that.
think about these and the grandparents and the elderly, but sometimes, unfortunately, it happens with someone in a tragic situation. So
It can happen due to an accident. It can happen due to an illness. Think about the kids with the AFM. that
Right.
Some of those children are going to need long-term care.
yeah.
And that's going to be a very expensive proposition for society.
But I think like the perception might be for the general public, and I'm speaking for the entire population now, right? But is that we're going to wait until we retire to get long-term care?
Well, and this is the challenge with
Right,
insurance.
yeah.
People don't think about it, and it's
That's why I want you to kind of educate us on
Well,
that.
there's about 2/3 of people that are 40 and up haven't done anything
Right.
about long-term care.
Yeah.
And if you listen to what government statistics, 70% of us are going to need long-term care at 65 or over.
Right.
So we need to do something. We need to have a solution in place.
Be proactive.
Absolutely. And with insurance, it's like any other kind of life insurance. The sooner you make that decision and engage, the less expensive it is for you on a long-term basis. That's the other joy of this hybrid approach.
And we got lots more topics to cover here, but let our listeners know right now. So as they're kind of tuning in, they're thinking, I've got a question, I want to find out more. You have an announcement from, as of just fresh off the internet last night, right? Hours ago, right?
Literally about 12 hours ago.
And what is that?
We did launch our website. This is a new endeavor for me, although I've been around the industry I grew up in it.
Since 1893.
It is, and it is very simple. It is McComber.insurance.com. So it's MCOMB as in boy, ER, insurance.com. And we've got information on our offerings up there and some of the knowledge that you'll need to make an informed decision.
And they also follow you for our business professionals at LinkedIn, right?
Yes, although I don't have a whole lot of. I'm.
But it's a point of contact if they want to reach out to you.
It's a good way to get a hold of me.
Okay, cool. All right, so let's now talk about other areas. So the state of both health insurance market and long-term care market we talked about. So with this new endeavor, who are you looking to serve and add value?
Well, almost anybody in one form or another, but our key issue is folks that are in the gig economy, small businesses with 50 or less employees really struggle with healthcare.
Okay.
And about 80% of what I'll call our daily medical or routine medical needs don't have to be handled in a doctor's office or the emergency room. And it's like driving a Maserati when you can use a bicycle,
Right.
To get the care that you need. And it's qualified care, it's effective, but it's really expensive and you have to wait a long time, generally speaking, to get in to see your doctor. And the other thing that's crazy about it is you don't know what it is going to cost you when you walk in the door. If you walk into your doctor's office, you have this crazy little thing called surprise billing.
Really?
You know,
That's actual term, industry term now?
Rich, I want to sell you a car.
Right.
And I want you to get this car because I know you need a car to get to work.
Right.
And you're going to drive off the lot with the car, and I'm going to send you a bill for it afterwards. But I'm not going to tell you what that bill is until I send it. And you have to pay it. And if you don't pay it, I'm going to put you into medical bankruptcy or auto bankruptcy in this particular example. So that's what's happening today in so much of our marketplace. And we have really discovered that there's so much about affordability, accessibility, and dependability for medical care today that's not being handled well, and we're bound and determined to fix that. And that's why I've picked this particular segment.
All right.
So small, medium-sized businesses, restaurants are a great example. Let me give you an example just this morning. I met a woman who has started a company. She has 4 people on staff. She's providing benefits to those 4 people, but she has 1,000 service providers that are 1099 people that she schedules.
Why would she do that?
Well, it's actually a very lucrative business.
I'm impressed. I'm impressed.
And I won't go into detail as to who it is, but it fills a great need for families.
Okay.
And she can do nothing for those people. And those are, a lot of them are young people, and they have no health coverage at all.
Speaking of young people, it looks like Nick, our engineer, has a question here for you.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, I just want to know, how does technology play a role into all of this?
Well, it plays a role in a variety of ways. One of them is the infrastructure we create to handle the program. So the way we like and the way this limited medical program works the best is we have an 800 number concierge for an individual to call. Something goes wrong. You don't feel well. Pick up the 800 number, make the call, and they'll do a triage with a senior EMT or physician's assistant over the phone, tell you exactly, what they think might be going on with you, and they'll direct you after that. So you won't have a question in your mind, do I need to go to the ER, or can I go down to my local drugstore?
Right.
And so they'll tell you what to do, and they'll communicate that. We have about 2,600 locations in network, about 70 of them here in Atlanta, where you can go and get care on a routine basis. And if you have an accident, you may need to end up in urgent care, or if it's really serious, they'll tell you need to go to the ER. But in any case, we will communicate. Using technology, we'll communicate the results of that initial triage to the next level provider, and all of that, and then you're into the medical system, which of course is technology based in a dramatic way, and that changes every day.
Absolutely. So I don't know if this was really on our agenda or if it impacts in your space, but actually, ironically, yesterday we had a conversation on our Capital Club radio show, and they were talking about the whole medical industry, and one of the points that they brought up was the guy was telling a story of he brought his daughter into the hospital. They had that surprise conversation. You need to write us a check today, right? And he's like, bill. In the past it was billed and invoice, and it's like, but beyond that, then they got the prescription, and he went to say Walmart, and it was like $8, and then at the local drugstore it's $80 for the exact same prescription.
It drives me crazy. Well, you have a number of factors at work. There are what they call the PBM, the pharmacy benefit managers, that sit in between the consumer and the drug companies, and they're the ones that negotiate with the insurance companies as to what you're going to pay.
Right.
And of course, for that process, they keep a cut, which of course is a mystery as to what that cut is. The whole thing, it's like a black box.
Yeah.
It's like it's kind of like the iOS operating system, right? you don't know what's going on inside that thing.
Right,
You don't
yeah,
have a whole lot of control over it.
I thought you were going to say the IRS operating system.
Well,
We don't want the IRS. We're going to
no,
edit
no.
that part out. Yeah, we never spoke about this. Yeah.
No, exactly. No,
That's
so-
an 800 number you don't want to call, whatever. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. 1-800 give me money. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that's right.
My brother was in the military. He used to say the government was always the first to collect and the last to pay. Right.
My bulletin board when I was working at Gartner had a piece of paper on it. It said it was the new IRS 1040 form, and it had 2 lines on it. How much did you make last year was line 1. Line 2 is send it in. And it's
Exactly,
kind of
yeah.
the reputation they have.
Yeah, we'll let you know when we get back to you. Yeah, on your refund.
But no, it is a difficult market for the individual to deal with because they don't know how much they're going to get charged,
Okay.
and we can help that.
No, it definitely sounds like it. So, so that's exciting news. Just launching the website yesterday, and from coming, full circle from the family background in this space. So, if you had to describe to someone your mission with this, who's underserved?
Well, individual business people are clearly underserved.
Okay.
Companies that are self-funded, interestingly enough, that are large enough, they might have 300, 500, 10,000 employees.
Right.
They pay for the routine day-to-day stuff that they negotiate a contract, but they pay off their bottom line the expenses for those people to go and see the doctor.
Right.
And then they have a catastrophic coverage on top of that if somebody gets cancer or needs a transplant or something. And the challenge is they have the same problem. They get the surprise billing of somebody going in. They have all these tests that they need. And so we can help them manage those costs much more effectively. And essentially, I won't say it's fixed cost, but
Right.
it's as close to fixed cost as you can get in this marketplace. So I like that. Restaurants are a great example. They have a lot of help that can't afford the major group medical. That's another segment. Is there folks that can't afford the group insurance that their company offers because the deductibles are high and the premiums are high. Their contribution is more than they're willing to make. We can help them, fit in underneath that and have some coverage.
Yeah, and this idea of what sets you apart, obviously being on a business talk show format, a lot of our audience are those business owners, employees and so forth, thinking about those decisions. And, there's always that open enrollment where they need to make a decision, right?
Right.
Right. But along that line, talk to us about retention. Is this a tool that you see for companies?
Well, absolutely.
Because sometimes, a lot of families, they look to, they could pick job A or B, but if this has the insurance.
If you listen to and look at the results of any survey, whether it's in the political arena that we're experiencing today, whether it's employers, the Society for Human Resource Management indicates that 95% of employees have health care benefits as their number one issue. So it's extremely important to the well-being of the employee. And so an employer that can't afford to offer benefits to their people because their margins aren't high enough is at a real loss in recruiting.
Yeah.
So, and it's the same thing. You can reward loyalty with retention. So, as a business guy, and I've spent my 40-plus years career in a wide variety of businesses. So
according to your bio, yeah.
Yeah, I've touched a lot of different business structures. And so it gives me the experience to sit down with a business owner or a business leader and strategize as to the best way to deploy what we've chosen to focus on that will help their business function more effectively. And that's what's driving me to do this.
No, I feel your passion. And so let's go back to like Nick's point when he's talking about technology impacting the industry. Where do you see disruption there with apps or especially different generations? They're not. It's not maybe what it used to be. You go down to your local insurance office and sit in the office as a space, right?
We have a website that will enable an individual and let's take this pool of 1,000 providers.
Right.
will have a website that they will be able to sign up for coverage on their own.
Really,
Now,
right there.
I like to touch those people
Yeah.
because that's the way I'm built.
Right.
And so I will touch those people. But by the same token, there's going to be a lot of things if they need to make a change to their policy, they're
Right.
going to be able to do that right online.
Yeah.
And to me, that's that's a real advantage. And the internet makes it capable. I mean, my website is mobile optimized. Everything is set up so
Nice.
that
Look at you.
any platform that you're on, you're going to be able to access the content in a way that's most effective for that platform.
So one thought I hadn't thought about. So obviously your website. We'll post that on the show as well, so people can and give that out one more time. Just
It's
at midpoint.
www.macomber, MCOMBER, insurance.com. Keep it simple.
And again, for listeners, you're listening to the Buckhead Business Show here on the Pro Business Channel with your host, Rich Casanova. And shout out to the BBA. Either maybe at the end of the show, give us a little BBA update with the Buckhead Business Association. We'll give a little plug for those people that may not know. Before we do that, in terms of insurance and your website and your license, so are you bound by geography? I mean, because
We
obviously
are.
there's license for Georgia and so forth,
yes.
right? So
Yeah,
give us
so-
some of those
So
geography.
I'm licensed for Georgia, and that's my primary focus. But by the same token, it is very simple to me if I find a company that has a significant installation here and might be headquartered in South Carolina, Florida, Tennessee, whatever. It's literally a 48-hour issue for me to be able to, become a non-resident licensee in that particular state and be able to handle them. So it's the insurance industry works well to enable us. But I'm a big believer in focus because that gives me the opportunity to provide the best service, and that's what I'm all about.
All right, looks like Nick has another question here.
Yes, sir.
From a youngster's perspective, yeah.
So you talk about the importance of technology. Do you use social media at all, like Facebook?
Yeah, how does that impact you?
Well,
LinkedIn and stuff?
we will have a Facebook page up. LinkedIn is a great media for business to
Yeah.
business, but not so much for selling.
Right.
And so I will look for other people that we can help through LinkedIn. I have a pretty good-sized LinkedIn following, but on the other hand, I think the web provides most of what we're going to need. And Twitter has a name that I'm not sure I want associated with my business.
Buzz and Twitter, whatever. Are you buzzing and he's twittering? Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
But to Nick's point, that's a good point. Is that not just for the younger generation, but grandparents, the whole, all generations are spending a lot more time. It's awesome that if your website is mobile friendly.
It is.
That's key, right? That's a game changer. So if they're on that mobile device and they surf over to, I 100% concur on LinkedIn. We're very passionate about that. They chose the same colors that we have. LinkedIn chose blue and white, like we did, right?
It's a great platform. I have about 4 figures worth of connections on there, and
Well, and that's the point. So for these companies, the HR people and so forth, they're making decisions. You should have some conversations on there, right? Because
Yes.
for those platforms, and on Facebook. Because they're thinking about their family policies and their kids, right?
Exactly.
And so I agree. It's not about selling, but it's about 2 points. One, about education, and what we call the Tom principle. You remember what Tom is, Nick? Yeah.
Yeah, top of mind.
Top of mind.
Sure.
Very good.
Of
He's
course.
been studying here. Yeah.
Class, yeah.
Well,
The top of mind marketing, right? Because it's
Exactly.
like when you hear that over a period of time, it kind of pings, and you're like, "Oh, Buzz. Oh, yeah, I've known him." And now, what in sales? How many touch points is it?
well, it's as many as you can have, but
Typically
at
7.
least 7. Yes.
Right, yeah. So they may not hit your website 7 days a week, but at some point, LinkedIn. I saw his website. I heard him on Pro Business Channel. Pretty much, Buckhead Business, Georgia Business Radio, Pro Business Channel. You're good to go. You're set.
Absolutely, and this this show will be a foundational part of our social
Awesome.
media launch.
There you go. Nice tie-in. Nice
I
good
love,
tie-in.
I love what you. Well, and I've been a BBA member.
Yeah, talk to us about the BBA for those
well,
folks that are not.
I love the Buckhead Business Association. I've been a member consistently for north of 10 years. And the programs that they offer, both in the community involvement, but the opportunity to help one another within the business community in Buckhead is fantastic. And we have the holiday party coming up for the membership. We have the annual luncheon coming up in January,
Right.
where we have Rich McKay from the Falcons is going to be our primary speaker. And he always brings a great story, and hopefully the Falcons will have a even greater story than they have now to tell. But with the new stadium
Right.
is magical. It really is
So impressive, right?
So
We're thinking about opening the roof on our studio here.
think
Yeah,
that's a grand
I don't know
idea.
how the 7th floor would feel about that, but
well, you could lights and mirrors, Rich.
right,
That's what you
exactly.
need.
Okay, I don't know how we went off the rails there, but finish with the BBA. We got about 2 minutes left or less. We want to give one more plug for you and a call to action, your best elevator pitch, all that good to kind of round things up. But talk to us about so the Buckhead Business Association, really de facto chamber of commerce for Buckhead, right?
It is, and I was I live in Brookhaven, so I was part of the original Brookhaven.
Yeah, the inaugural.
chamber.
I saw that, right?
So I'm a believer in that, and the BBA forms a similar kind of service opportunity.
Okay.
For businesses to connect and enhance themselves, and it's done in a non-aggressive manner, if you will.
There's no cage fighting involved.
There's no
right?
cage fighting. And the other thing is the weekly meetings, to me, add an enormous amount of value. As a matter of fact, the speaker that we had today, at the meeting just before this,
Right.
was the individual I referenced when they had a very small company but a large number of service
Okay.
providers. And it's a question of just understanding what their business is and how we can help.
Yeah, and just getting insight outside of the bubble that you're in, right? But
Absolutely.
that's every Thursday morning here in Buckhead. The venue may change, so we're going to keep it kind of green, not timestamp it here, but a breakfast meeting every Thursday. Third Thursday is after hours.
Yes, indeed.
Right, they do those signature events, the luncheons, the annual Taste of Buckhead. So actually
and-
check them out at
the Taste-
buckheadbusiness.org.
Yes, and the Taste of Buckhead that we just had down at the Stave Room was just fantastic. The food was great, and it was a huge turnout with a band, and it was an awful lot of fun. I go every year.
Yeah, and it's not just the adult beverages that make it fun either. Yeah,
No, it's the people. It's like everything else in business. If you don't do it for the people, you're in the wrong place.
great finish here. So Buzz, one more time. How would folks find out to you? What's a call to action or any advice you'd leave us with?
We're out to help companies become more effective and individuals to have that peace of mind that insurance brings, because so many people, and we're looking to serve people. It's not about me, it's about the people that we serve, and that's the foundation of our business. And so our goal is to help individuals, small businesses, and large businesses manage this segment of the benefit structure that they're bringing to their people more effectively, both cost-wise and also in what we deliver.
Well, Buzz, on behalf of the Pro Business Channel, the Buckhead Business Association, Rich Casanova here, is our honor to have you in the show, and just fascinating to hear you continue the family legacy.
Well, I don't sit well. I've flunked retirement, and this is a great way to spend the latter part of my unretirement.
On retirement, absolutely. Again, we'll see you for the next episode.
Thank you for joining us and our guests on the Pro Business Channel. Use the social media links here